Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Russia looting Ukraine's gold. Let's explore! Now, I'm not talking about their gold reserves. I don't even know if they have gold reserves. But even if they did, more likely it had been removed from the country months ago, as it is widely known that Russia has had their troops and tanks and equipment on the border of the country for many months before the invasion began. Nonetheless, it is this kind of gold that was taken. It is very important to understand how this affects that region. And this is given that it's true. We're going to look at a couple of sources here, and actually it's not been totally substantiated yet, but it would not surprise me if that was the case. We'll look at one article I was able to pull up, surprisingly, from New York Times that didn't get me behind the paywall. Some browsers do that, some of them don't, but nonetheless, they were the original reporters of this story, so take this news as a grain of salt, but nonetheless, again, it would not surprise me, given that what we do know that is happening on the ground there. The heist started with a mysterious man in a white lab coat showed up at the museum in Kyiv. A squad of Russian soldiers stood behind him with guns, watching eagerly. Using long tweezers and special gloves, the man in the white coat carefully extracted scores of special gold artifacts, more than 2,300 years old, from cardboard boxes in the cellar of a museum in Melitopol, a southern town in Russian-occupied territory, Ukrainian officials said. The gold items were from the Scythian Empire and dated back to the 4th century BC. Then the mysterious expert, the Russian soldiers, and the gold disappeared. The orcs have taken hold of our Scythian gold, declared Melitopol's mayor Ivan Fyodorov, using a derogatory term many Ukrainians reserve for Russian soldiers. This is one of the largest and most expensive collections in Ukraine, and today we don't know where they took it. This is hardly the first attack on Ukrainian culture since the war began. In Mariupol, the town that has been hammered for weeks by Russian forces, officials said that Russian agents broke into an art museum and stole masterpiece paintings, a famous sculpture, and several highly valued Christian icons. Across Ukraine, officials said dozens of Orthodox churches, national monuments, and cultural heritage sites have been destroyed. In one town near Kyiv, Borodovanivka, Russian soldiers shot the bust of a famous Ukrainian poet in the head. On Saturday, Ukrainian officials said that more than 250 cultural institutions have been damaged or destroyed. Undoubtedly, some of this probably is true, if not all of it true, and it likens us to exactly what the Taliban did in Afghanistan when they took over in 2001. On Saturday, Ukrainian officials said that more than these 250 cultural institutions have been destroyed, but perhaps no cultural heist has been as brazen as what unfolded in Melitopol just a few days ago. So according to Leila Ibrahimova, the director of the Melitopol Museum of Local History, the trouble started in late February when Russian soldiers shelled the airport and took over the city. Soldiers went on a rampage, smashing into supermarkets, stores, and homes. Most of the city's residents hid inside their houses, but a few museum workers, including Miss Ibrahimova, made their way back to the museum. It is an elegant 3-story stone building in an old part of town, home to 50,000 exhibits from Soviet-era medals to old battle axes. But his prized collection was a set of rare gold ornaments from the Scythians, a nomadic people that founded a rich, powerful empire centered on the Crimean Peninsula and endured from around the 8th century BC to the 2nd century AD. It was the Scythian gold that Miss Ibrahimova was most worried about. She and other staff members secretly hid it and some other historic artifacts in cardboard boxes, stashing the boxes in a dank cellar where they didn't think anyone would find it. We knew that any second someone would come into the museum with a weapon, she said. So they work fast, she said, because the collection is priceless. In mid-March, Miss Ibrahimova said Russian troops burst into her house with assault rifles, threw a black hood over her head, and kidnapped her. After several hours of intense questionings, they let her go. 2 weeks later, she left Melitopol for an area not under Russian control. But on Wednesday, she received a call from a caretaker at the museum. The caretaker said Russian soldiers, along with intelligence officers and a Russian-speaking man in a white lab coat, had come to her house in the morning and ordered her at gunpoint to go with them to the museum. They commanded her to take them to the Scythian gold. The caretaker refused, Mrs. Ibrahimova said. Ibrahimova said, but the man in the white coat found the boxes anyway with the help of a Ukrainian, Yevgeny Gorlachev, who was appointed by the Russian military as the museum's new director, she said. A Russian crew filmed part of the robbery. We hid everything, but somehow they found it, she said. What was stolen? At least 198 gold items. Wow, including ornaments in the form of flowers, gold plates, rare old weapons, 300-year-old silver coins, and special medals. She said many of the gold artifacts have been given to Scythians by the Greeks. In an interview with Russian television, Mr. Gorlachev said the gold artifacts are of great cultural value for the entire former Soviet Union, and that the previous administrators of the museum spent a lot of effort and energy to hide them. For what purpose? No one knows, he said. Well, because it's Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign nation. But thanks to these people and their operational work carried out, residents of the city of Melitopol and not only Melitopol were able to observe again a large collection of Scythian gold. He did not say when or where the artifacts would be displayed. Mrs. Ibrahimova, who spoke by phone, sounded despondent as she spoke about the Russian invaders. Maybe culture is the enemy for them, she said. They said that Ukraine has no state, no history. They just want to destroy our country. I hope they will not succeed. Scythian gold was an enormous symbol of symbolic value in Ukraine. Other collections of the artifacts had been stored in vaults in the capital, Kyiv, before the war broke out. But Mrs. Ibrahimova said events unfolded too fast for her museum to spirit out the collection. For years now, Ukraine has been locked in a complicated dispute with Russia for collections of Scythian gold that several museums in Crimea had lent to a museum in Amsterdam after Russia seized Crimea in 2014. Ukraine pleaded with the Amsterdam Museum not to return the gold. Russia demanded the museum to do just that. A court has ruled in Ukraine's favor and the gold remains in Amsterdam. But historians said the looting of the artifacts in Melitopol is an even more egregious attempt to appropriate and perhaps destroy Ukraine's cultural heritage. The Russians are making a war without rules, said Alexander Simonenko, a fellow Ukrainian Archaeological Institute and Scythian specialist. This is not a war. It's destroying our life, our nature, our culture, our industry, or everything. This is a crime. The caretaker who refused to help the Russians was released on Wednesday after the gold was stolen, but on Friday she was taken away from her house at gunpoint again, Mrs. Ibrahimova said, shortly after the mayor, who is also in exile, announced the theft. She's not been heard from since. Pretty sad, indeed. Well, what a story this is, and it is a shame of what's happening here. And here is actually an example of some of the photos of some of the items that were taken, or at least that were there. And we can see amazing beauty for such old gold pieces crafted by the Scythians. There's that helmet, pretty amazing, intricate, and I think I've actually covered some of these items and artifacts in previous videos in the past, but what amazing beauty. And this was a story that was shared with me by a member of this community. Did not give his channel name or his YouTube name, but nonetheless, thank you for that. But look at these artifacts, pretty amazing stuff. Look at that, a sword and a sheath made of gold. Amazing ornate craftsmanship on these pieces. Just a shame, but nonetheless, there it is. Other artifacts obviously taken as well, too. And as you can see, all the different pieces there from the story. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.